Welcome back to HomeSpot, everyone. I hope everyone is having a very good day. I myself am having a pretty good one so far. So up on today's episode, we're going to be building a custom podium. A local church reached out to me and asked if I could build them one. Of course, they could have definitely ordered one online, but they decided to go the custom way. I've already purchased all of the material. We have 2 3/4-inch sheets of plywood and some select pine that we'll use for the face frames. Now, this is my first real project to where I'm working with the business. Feels good. Feels like a real woodworker. So, first off, here's kind of what my thought process is. I could just start building it and go as I see. However, I'm going to take it a step back. I am going to actually design this on the computer itself. We're going to follow some plans. So, without further ado, let's get to work. Now, this piece is going to contain a total of 3 main pieces, which is going to be the back and the 2 sides, the left and the right. So we start out by getting those down to a more manageable size so we can run them to exact size on the table saw. Now, our main form of joinery is going to be pocket holes. So we want to find out where exactly we're going to be drilling all those pocket holes. And you just want to spend, 1 or 2 minutes just making sure everything is nice, even. Okay, now, as you can see, the pocket holes are on the outside. Now, this is completely by design. I do know that they're on the outside, so don't worry about that. They will be covered by a trim piece. Now, the reason I have them on the outside is because of the angle that pocket screw is going in. I want the screw to go into the board it's joining. Had I put the pocket holes on the inside, that pocket hole or that screw could have easily popped out of the other board. Okay, now moving on to the bottom piece. Now, structurally, this is probably going to be the most important piece of our product here, just because this podium is not going to sit on the floor. So the left, right, and back shelves are not going to be touching the floor. It's going to be sitting on casters. These casters are going to be screwed on directly to the bottom panel. So the bottom panel, I'm actually doubling up. So using 2 3/4-inch pieces of plywood, gluing them together, screwing them together, just making it really nice and beefy. That way, this bottom shelf has absolutely no give over time, especially. And then after that, I'm actually going to dado in just a dado all the way around the the back, left, right pieces. That way this shelf actually sits in that groove. Again, we're not attaching this specific shelf with any pocket holes or anything like that. Nope, we're going to be doing dados just because it's a lot stronger and will hold up a lot better over time. Whenever I'm doing dados, I always like to have a test piece. That way I can test that first, make sure I don't go too far. Okay, once I have that dado dimensioned correctly, it's time to reapply everything back together. Make sure it fits nice and square. Square is going to be the biggest thing here. So if we're square now, we'll be square later on. Okay, and since I already had my circular saw and my Craig track out, I went ahead and cut out the shelves. It's going to be a total of 3 shelves that actually go inside and a 4th shelf that goes on the very top where you actually rest your book, laptop, tablet, whatever you may be reading off of. Now, we're not going to be using these pieces, at least as of yet, but I went ahead and cut them out just because I already had everything set up. Now on the top, it is going to be tapered off. So right now I'm just kind of playing with lines where I want that taper to be. Yes, I did draw it on the computer, but nonetheless, I still wanted just to see what it looked like on the actual finished piece. Now on top of that taper, the top shelf is actually going to be recessed exactly 2 inches from that taper. Now I was having a lot of issues holding up this shelf at the exact angle, so what I ended up doing is cutting about a 1-inch just piece of plywood and setting it kind of as a backrest, and this worked awesome. So good that I actually used this same technique for all of the other 3 shelves. Once we have that shelf placed exactly where we want it, now we can cut that taper to match that exact shelf line. Okay, so here we move on to making all of the other shelf holders, if you want to call them. Okay, so here's one of the very few mistakes that I actually made. You see that bottom line? That bottom line should be where this piece actually goes. Instead I put it on the top line, which I guess wasn't too big of a deal. Okay, off camera, I did make sure that all of the shelves went on correctly, which they sure did. Now, once the shelves are accounted for, it's time for the outside, it's time to make it look nice and pretty. And again, this is just trim. So what I'm doing here is I'm gonna cut out a 3-inch piece of board and make it as an outline. We're gonna do this all the way around. Okay, the top part gets a little bit thicker as well. I wanted it to be nice and meaty from the top, and then it does also get capped at the very top with a 3-inch piece of wood. Okay, so the last thing that we really need to build is the face frame, and you always want to save this to very last. That way you have everything down to final dimension, final size, nothing's moving. Now this is at the point to where if you're following a set of plans, this is where you don't want to follow those set of plans, just because everything can be thrown off by the end of your build by 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch, whatever it may be. So the measurements you actually want to take off of your actual piece instead of a plan itself. So always take it off of the piece itself. Okay, and now time for the legs. Now, the reason I didn't put these on earlier is just because they hadn't got here, they hadn't arrived yet. However, had I had them on hand, it would have been a whole lot easier to make this mobile a lot earlier. So just word of advice, if you have the wheels, put them on sooner. Okay, so up next, it's time to get the finishing touches on. Now, the way that I attached these trim pieces was with a pin nail and glue. The pin nail specifically acted as a clamp to hold the glue until it dries, but it does leave little unsightly little holes. They're not very big, but if you want a nice finished piece, do not skip this step. Fill them in with something joint. I specifically fill it in with joint compound. And then also this is where you can actually fill in any of the gaps that you have with the trim pieces. Mine weren't bad, but I did have a couple where I did fill in, and now they are seamless. Now moving on to paint, customer wanted it completely black, so 3 coats of flat black, and we finished it off with some satin polyacrylic, 3 coats of that as well. Something else you may notice is I painted the inside without the shelves inside of it. I did leave the shelves out, painted the shelves out while they were out of the cabinet, just much easier. Painted the inside of the cabinet and then applied the shelves. Once I applied the shelves, I then actually put the face frame in, much easier.
Hear ye, hear ye, the podium is done. The garage is a mess, but the podium is done. Now, in all actuality, guys, so the podium is completely done. This, I have to say, was one of my favorite projects by far. It's one of my bigger projects, I will say that, but it wasn't overly complex. There is a lot going on, but it's a lot of the basics. As long as you know how to square everything up, keep everything true 90, there is maybe a couple other angles which weren't too hard once you did the math. Good to go there. I hope the church likes it as much as they do, or as much as I do, I should say. Yes, was it a pretty penny? This is coming when wood prices are through the roof. But even though they're super high, they're gonna have a nice podium for plenty of years to come. So I need to figure out now a way of how to get this onto my truck and deliver it. This is the first time I've really come into a situation like this, just because the structure is so heavy. And actually, let me show you this. I've already started putting some tape on there. I'm thinking this side is gonna go face down. I am gonna put some blankets on the bottom of the truck bed just to eliminate any scratching or anything like that. We're just trying to be careful with it. So I need to get working on that. Actually, let me show you guys the garage just so you can see how bad it actually is. So it's never this bad. So check it out. There's a table somewhere under there. The table so you can see, but there's definitely a table under there. I just have stuff everywhere. Tools are not where they should be. My tool storage over there, there's no tools. They're all somewhere over here. But nonetheless, guys, that's all that I really have for you. I need to get to work on transporting this. Please browse the channel, like, subscribe. I will link up another video over here. We'll catch you next time.